For 13 years, a soul-locking pearl had me pinned to my own skeleton. My soul was so bored it was about to dissipate. Then she showed up, the real heiress, kicked out of the Duke's manor. She lay down on my bones, tears streaming down her face. "I want to die," she whispered. "You want to live? Let's trade." I never thought that as a wisp of a ghost, I could still be seen. And I certainly never thought the one who could see me would be the long-lost heiress to the Duke's manor. 6 months ago, when the manor's staff came to bring her home, they passed by my little patch of land. The carriage stopped under the peach tree my corpse had nourished. A frantic old nanny clutched her rear and bolted into the bushes for a bout of explosive diarrhea. Someone else stepped out of the carriage. It was June, the heiress they'd finally found. When her small, palm-sized face met my gaze, it instantly turned chalk white. I didn't die pretty. That bitch, Empress Heiress, had gouged out my eyes and slashed the face that Emperor Silas had once been so obsessed with. Even my hands, so skilled with a blade, were hacked off and thrown into the fish pond in the palace's back garden. My bones were pinned down in this potter's field, and I was bored to tears. So I spent my days hanging upside down from the crooked peach tree, swinging back and forth. A ghostly wind blew, and my blood-soaked head swung right in front of June's face. Her dark, round eyes went wide. An invisible drop of my blood dripped right onto her. Baring my fangs, I blew a cold breath at her. "Let me get a whiff of your rations, and I'll spare your life." She fumbled nervously for a long time before offering up 2 cold, hard buns. I was deeply disappointed. "Are you feeding a beggar? I want to smell the good stuff." "Like that." My long tongue shot out, pointing towards the beef jerky the servants and driver were eating nearby. She followed my gaze, then her face flushed with embarrassment. Her fan-like lashes lowered, and her voice was as faint as a mosquito's buzz. "I haven't been formally recognized by the family yet. The house doesn't support freeloaders. These rations are my own." My 3-foot-long tongue froze, then slowly retracted. The family was so wealthy that even the scraps they threw to the dogs were better than the buns in her hands. I'd seen their adopted daughter at a palace banquet over a decade ago. She was draped in gold and jade, like a celestial child, nearly as grand as a royal princess. Back then, the Duchess would even shed a few tears in public when mentioning her lost daughter. "Having her is my only comfort," she'd say. "It keeps the years from feeling so long." But in just a decade, she'd completely forgotten her real daughter, neglecting her to this extent. A person who isn't loved doesn't even get a proper welcome home. I was just hanging from the treetop, sighing about the fickle nature of the world, when June's heart softened. "Here." She bravely asked the driver for a half-eaten piece of jerky, held it up and said timidly, without even daring to look up, "Don't cry. I've thought of a way for you." I froze, realizing that my empty eye sockets were weeping blood again. I wasn't. Before I could finish, the old nanny's disciplinary ruler sliced through my head and struck June's hand. "A young lady must behave like one. The house is a noble family of the highest order. How could you eat scraps offered in pity? A single piece of jerky, and you've disgraced the entire family. You are base and vulgar, and you will be punished." The jerky fell to the ground, covered in dust. The servants and driver stomped on it, then stood flanking the nanny, their arms crossed as they sneered. "With an attitude like that, she's not even as good as the maid, Lily, in the young lady's courtyard. And she calls herself a lady. If it weren't for the arranged marriage, you think anyone would want her?" The Duke and Duchess saw her 5 years ago, decided she was an illiterate embarrassment, and left her there. Putting on airs as a lady. She should look at where she came from. An orphan who grew up cleaning outhouses will never wash away the stench of shit. June clutched her sleeves, so humiliated she couldn't lift her head. But the 3 of them grew even more smug, their words a torrent of insults and ridicule. The constant crack of the nanny's ruler, and the jeering laughter of the men were so damn loud. I started thinking about my killing days again. Have you ever seen a human swing set? June's teary eyes widened in confusion. "You're about to." My tongue shot out, wrapped around the old nanny, and yanked her up into the peach tree. The fork of a branch clamped around her neck. I blew a puff of air, and she started swinging violently. "Faster?" June was stunned. The nanny was choking, close to death. The driver and servant screamed and rushed to help. I let out a wicked laugh. Wanna see a pinwheel? I wrapped them in the branches and sent them spinning like tops. They shrieked hysterically, piss and shit flying everywhere. Amid their cries for their parents, their eyes rolled back into their heads. The little girl, who had been terrified, started to laugh. An incense sticks time later, the 3 unconscious bodies were laid out neatly on the ground. They all shit their pants. Let's see who's so high and mighty now. June and I held the jerky and feasted. What's your name? When I get back to the capital, I'll save up and have a monk pray for your soul. My name was not something she should touch. Besides, my soul couldn't be saved. I've been marked by a soul-locking pearl. Don't waste your effort. Besides, I didn't tell her that I was on the verge of fading away completely. Just tell them a ghost attacked them. The way they look, they'll be too scared to say otherwise. I swung myself back up into the tree. Live well. All I've ever wanted is to live, and to drag those bastards to hell. She paused for a moment. You like the smell of meat? I'll bring you a whole roasted chicken next time I visit. She swore she'd bring me a chicken when she left, but half a year passed without a word. I know about the soul-locking pearl. To be free, it takes a life for a life. I went to the Grand Temple and got a talisman. Just nod, and my life is yours. A clap of thunder lit up June's pale face. Unlike the vibrant girl from 6 months ago, she was now faint and breathless. She collapsed under my peach tree, completely out of strength. I didn't forget you. I just couldn't get out. I don't have the chicken, so please don't be mad at me. Look at me, still thinking of you even as I die. She just wanted to die. She could have done it anywhere. But it was a 10-mile journey from the capital to here. She must have walked all night through the mud. Who pushed you to this? The Meng family? She smiled, a resolute look on her face, which was streaked with rain or maybe tears. In the next second, a sharp dagger sliced across her wrist. It was the world. It was me being stupid and weak, not as good as others. This is my fate. Blood gushed out, staining the damp talisman she held against her chest, which began to glow with a golden light. Come here. Come hold me. You're the only one who ever protected me. Oh right, you don't have hands. Then I'll hold you. No matter how I tried to save her, it was all in vain. I want to die, and you want to live. Let's trade, I'm begging you. When someone wants to die, no one else can save them. She tore her wound deeper. The red blood was washed away by the rain, spreading downwards until my entire skeleton was stained with its smell. Life is already so hard. Don't let me die with regrets. At least, if you live, someone will remember me, right? Her soul slowly drifted out of her body, growing fainter and fainter, until she was just barely hanging on. I moved closer to her. What do you wish for? I'll do it for you. I'll do anything. She smiled and held me tight. She buried her face in my chest. You have to live a good life. I'll be reborn into a better family in my next life. We both win. Did we? Unless I could drag everyone down with me, it was just another senseless death. That night, a forgotten heiress of the Duke's manor died, but in a potter's field, a demoness was reborn. The peach tree withered overnight. I took June's body and walked down the mountain. I don't know about the next life, but in this one, I would have my revenge in blood. Before heading back to the capital, I paid a visit to the Grand Temple. The Empress Dowager lived there, a lifelong vegetarian praying for her son's well-being. She never liked me. The last time she punished me by making me kneel, I miscarried my 8-month-old child. But now, after I told her the truth about how her son really died, she was eager to jump on my bandwagon and help me stir up a storm, to kill our way back into the heart of the Forbidden City. With our deal struck, I returned to the Duke's manor on the day of the fake heiress's coming-of-age ceremony. The hall was filled with joy. Everyone crowded around the fake heiress, Serena, piling priceless treasures and jewelry in front of her. They all congratulated her on becoming a woman, reminding her to be mindful of her words and actions, lest she ruin her future. She was at the peak of her life, surrounded by splendor. No one remembered that today was also June's birthday. The Duchess pulled the charming fake heiress into her arms. A dozen large boxes were stacked neatly before her. These were from your grandmother's dowry. I only received them after I gave birth to your brother. I'm not giving them to anyone else, only to my dear Serena. Serena pouted, burying her face in the Duchess's embrace with a smile that was both innocent and cunning. I knew Mother loves me best. Serena loves you so much. The Duke's heir, Theodore, approached with a gentle smile, presenting his own treasure. I may not have Mother's heirlooms, but this 5-colored agate, a gift from the Emperor himself, was something I had to beg the third prince for. It carries a special meaning. The third prince? The third one in line. That must be him. Heh, what an unexpected bonus. The Duke, sitting in the main seat, proudly stroked his beard. My gift is no less impressive. I shamelessly begged the Emperor to arrange an early marriage between you and the third prince after your ceremony, so my precious jewel can have her wish. Serena's eyes lit up, but she still stomped her foot at the Duke. Father, you're embarrassing me, saying such things in front of everyone. I'm not talking to you anymore. The crowd burst into laughter, their words coated in honeyed sweetness. Only my body, still carrying June's hidden wounds, felt a chill. A cold wind blew, and a shiver ran through me, deep into my bones. You know how to be shy now. I thought you were shameless. Theo, you're so mean. Mother, tell him off. All right, I'll scold him right now. Theo, don't bully your sister. As punishment, you'll take her shopping tomorrow, and you have to pay for everything. Theodore cried out in mock despair. Mother, you're putting me in a tight spot. You know my private funds have all been spent on this little glutton. Serena stuck out her tongue and made a face. Serves you right, neener. And what about me? My voice cut through the roaring laughter, a jarring note in the symphony of joy. What do I get? The laughter died instantly. Every face was marked with the annoyance of having their fun spoiled. Theo shot me a cold glare. So you decided to come back. I thought you had more backbone than that. Couldn't make it on your own, so you came crawling back, did you? Do you have any idea how worried Serena was because you ran away? She couldn't eat or sleep for days. You had the nerve to elope with someone? You are truly shameless. You've brought nothing but disgrace to this family. Serena was stunned for a moment when she saw me, but she quickly hid a flash of hatred. Biting her lip, her innocent eyes welled with tears. She tugged on Theo's sleeve and said pitifully, Brother, don't say that. I don't blame my sister anymore. Even though she kicked me out of the house and I almost died, I enjoyed the family's wealth for so many years. I'm content. I'm sure she was tricked into eloping. She must know she was wrong now. Then she looked at me, her face a mask of sincerity. Now that you're back, sister, I suppose I should return everything that is yours. But sister, you disappeared without a word and made father and mother worry sick. Don't forget to apologize to them. The Duchess shot me a venomous look and sneered. I wouldn't dare accept it. The last time you apologized to Serena, you pushed her into the water. If you apologize to me, you might just put my old bones in the ground too. Besides, I only have one daughter, and that is you, Serena. Don't you dare compare me to anyone else. Serena gave me a troubled look, her eyes wide. Sister, hurry up and admit you were wrong. The Duke, seeing my lack of response, roared, Get on your knees. I didn't move an inch, but a wave of sadness and pain emanated from my body. It was June. Her soul was gone, but her body still grieved. Looking them straight in the eye, I gave them one last chance. Shouldn't I have what she has? You dare compare yourself to Serena? Theo was furious. You're a country bumpkin with no manners. You've disgraced this family time and time again. If Serena hadn't protected you, you'd have died 1,000 times over. Eloped? Who told you that? Serena, with a look of pure innocence, walked towards me. Don't be afraid, sister. Now that you're back, your family will clean up your mess. I've already destroyed that letter for you. As long as you apologize to father and mother, you'll still be the eldest daughter of this house, and we can all live in peace. Look at your sister. She's still defending you, and you're so ungrateful, trying to frame her again and again. I was wrong to dote on her? Tell me, in what way are you better than her? Your mother is right. If you weren't my own flesh and blood, I would have thrown you, a piece of useless mud, out to the countryside. Father and mother are just too soft-hearted. A troublemaker like her doesn't deserve to be a child of the family. Don't say that, you'll hurt her feelings. Serena affectionately took my arm. Her gaze hardened, and her sharp nails dug into my skin. Isn't that right, sister? She was ready for me to shove her away in pain, so she could fall dramatically. But I didn't even flinch. She froze, her face twisted with frustration. She hissed at me in a low voice. You've gotten smarter, haven't you? You cheap slut. Why didn't you just die out there? Was this pathetic little trick all it took to drive June to her death? I almost laughed. So, you're the one who spread the rumor about me eloping? A flicker of contempt crossed her eyes, but her face was a picture of misery. Are you blaming me, sister? I didn't mean to. I casually dislocated her jaw. As long as you admit it. You don't need to say anything else. It happened so fast that everyone only reacted when she started clutching her jaw, whimpering in terror. In an instant, they all swarmed towards me, ready to take me down. But Serena's old nanny, her fiercest defender, didn't even get close before I kicked her so hard her thigh bone snapped. She collapsed on the ground, howling in pain. At the same time, I pressed a dagger to Serena's neck, who was now frozen in place. Make one move, I dare you. Perhaps my tone was too light, making them think I didn't have the guts. They started to lunge forward again. Slash. With a flick of my wrist, a long gash appeared on Serena's cheek, blood pouring from the wound. Ah, it hurts. Father, Mother, Theo, it hurts so much. My face is ruined, I scream again. She didn't dare. I sliced off her earlobe, blood dripping, and crushed it under my foot. Her previous arrogance had vanished, replaced by sheer terror. They all retreated behind the Duke. Only then did I step towards Serena's nanny, who was writhing on the floor. Tell me, who kicked your mistress out of the manor, and how did she end up in the water? The nanny was sweating profusely from the pain, but her mouth was still hard. Even if you kill me, eldest miss, I can only tell the truth. It was you. You couldn't stand the second miss. And when you failed to kill her, you drove her from the house. The second miss was almost abducted by bandits. She still has a scar on her leg. A tough one, are we? Interesting. As I lifted my foot, the Duchess screamed. You rebellious wretch. You want gifts, don't you? I'll give them to you. But if you dare harm my Serena, I will never acknowledge you. Never want you as my daughter. She was so loud. June, this must have hurt so much. Whoosh. I ripped an earring from Serena's other ear and flung it, hitting the Duchess's ornate headpiece. One good ear was now torn open. The other, a prim and proper matriarch, was now disheveled and pale, her composure gone. Next time, I'm aiming for your eyes. Useless, blind eyes aren't worth keeping anyway. The Duchess collapsed to the ground in terror, not daring to speak another word. The others, having witnessed my methods, didn't dare make a move either. I gave you a chance. You didn't take it. Don't blame me. The tip of my knife rested on the nanny's wrist. With a swift flick, I severed her tendon. Still not telling the truth? She didn't dare answer, just screamed endlessly. I rubbed my numb ears, then plunged the knife straight into her lung, twisting the blade for good measure. It wouldn't kill her, but the pain would be worse than death. The blood flowed like a small river, shocking the others into immobility. In the years I fought alongside Silas, I learned many methods of torture in his dungeons to extract information. Using them on a backyard nanny felt like overkill. But a tool is a tool, as long as it works. Sure enough, after just 2 stabs, the nanny pissed herself in pain. Just as she was about to speak, Theo cried out, "What do you want? We'll give it to you. Do you want Serena's courtyard? Official recognition? The marriage to the third prince? Put down the knife, and we can talk. Don't kill anyone or else even I can't help you." He was babbling on, interrupting my interrogation. A fire ignited in my head. You come over here. I'll tell you what I want. He hesitated, but Serena's tearful gaze pushed him forward. You. Before he could pull out the knife hidden behind his back, I grabbed him by the throat and delivered a dozen slaps across his face. I slammed him to the ground. He spat out a mouthful of blood and teeth before passing out, the hidden knife clattering beside him. Talk too much, do you? Useless idiot. The Duke met my smiling eyes. He was trembling with rage, but for the sake of his children he had to swallow his pride. Gritting his teeth he commanded, "Do as she says." No one moves. I gave him a satisfied smirk, then tapped the nanny's face with the cold dagger. Are you going to talk? Her stubbornness was gone. The words tumbled out of her like beans from a sack, revealing all the injustices and persecution June had suffered. The young lady from the countryside was never liked by her family. The day she returned, she was locked away in the smallest courtyard to learn her manners just for making the fake heiress cry. Later, she was accused of breaking the fake heiress's imperial gift, of setting fire to her own courtyard in a fit of pique, and even of pushing the fake heiress into a lake out of jealousy over the third prince's affections. Finally, using her status as the true heiress, she supposedly drove the fake one from the manor. If the family hadn't found her in time, the fake heiress would have been ruined by bandits. A tiny scar, the size of a fingernail, on the fake heiress's leg was enough for the entire family to kick the real one out to teach her a lesson. But then, she had supposedly eloped in a rage. It was all the second miss. No, it was all her orders. She couldn't stand being second to the eldest miss just because of bloodlines, so she wanted the eldest miss dead. From the very beginning, it was all the second miss's scheming. The eldest miss never did a single bad thing. When the eldest miss was locked in the ancestral hall, the second miss offered to bring her food, but never delivered a single meal. For a whole month, the eldest miss survived on leftover soup from the servants. The birthday gift for the Duchess was a good luck pouch the eldest miss stitched herself, not that clod of dirt the second miss swapped it with. The Duke's cold medicine was also brewed by the eldest miss, who watched the stove all night. But she was stopped at the study door, and the second miss added laxatives to it and framed her. The eldest miss truly only glanced at the heir's painting, she never touched it. It was the second miss who used her free access to the study to destroy it herself. Confined, forced to kneel in the ancestral hall, beaten, and finally driven from her home to fend for herself. June had suffered so much in her own home. She had returned with a heart full of hope, only to find that the love she craved had been given to someone else. Her own flesh and blood, who should have loved and protected her, gave her nothing but overwhelming hatred and malice. Betrayed, despised, and cast out by her own family. How helpless she must have felt. I sighed and continued, and what about the elopement? The nanny trembled. The eldest miss didn't elope, because the second miss ran away. The Duke and Duchess threw the eldest miss out to teach her how hard life is for a woman without family support. The second miss had already bribed bandits to rape and murder the eldest miss in the countryside. As for the letter, of course it was written by the maid Lily. She's an expert forger. I scanned the crowd, my cold smile landing on Lily. She was terrified. Before I even raised my knife, she threw herself to her knees in front of me, corroborating every word the nanny had said. She even added more details. Finally, she kowtowed like a woodpecker. The second miss forced me. We're just servants. How could we disobey? Please, eldest miss, spare my life. Spare my life. See, when you're the one holding the knife, everyone bows down to you. June, all you were missing was a knife. Serena's crimes were practically set in stone. Take Serena away and interrogate her severely. Who dares? The family servant I'd intentionally let escape returned with the furious third prince, Alistair. Let's just say, he was far less intelligent than Silas. He didn't even inherit a third of his mother's looks. He was cute as a child, but now everything about him was repulsive. You have the gall to look at me? June, you are truly despicable. Cradling the almost broken Serena, he stood protected by a circle of guards and spewed vitriol at me. You've grievously wounded a court official's daughter and my fiancé. June, I think you've gone mad and are looking for a death wish. Men, seize this wicked wretch and send her to the Ministry of Justice for severe punishment. Oh, arresting their daughter in their own home? Have you asked their permission? Even after learning the whole truth, even after knowing all the injustices June had suffered, the family remained silent as the third prince condemned their own pitiful daughter and sister. A daughter's suffering was nothing compared to the family's wealth and future. June, they weren't worth it. I gave them their chance. Now they would face the consequences. The third prince laughed, his arrogant expression so much like that other man. I say you are not a daughter of the Ming family, and who would dare say otherwise? The Duke lowered his eyes, feigning indifference. The Duchess mumbled for a moment before closing her mouth. Only Theo, covered in injuries, snarled, "Kill her." I only have one sister, and that's Serena. The third prince gave me a C. No one will protect you, look. Gazing down at me from his high horse. You think you can marry me just by hurting Serena? Dream on. Now that the Meng family has disowned you, I will make you suffer a fate worse than death to atone for what you've done to Serena. If you know what's good for you, kill yourself in front of Serena. I might be merciful and leave your body intact. I took a sharp breath. The third prince is so determined to be her knight in shining armor that he'd ignore the truth and the law just to have me killed? He sneered back dismissively. What truth? Serena never schemed against you. There was only you, a madwoman, running amok and killing people in the Duke's manor. Serena was only trying to stop your rampage when you disfigured her. Duke Meng was only trying to persuade you to be good when you knocked his teeth out. That is the only truth. The fact that he could say such things, twisting black into white in public, put my mind at ease. Seeing my strange smile, he waved his hand. Men, take her to the Ministry of Justice. Tell the minister my version of events and order him to interrogate her with extreme prejudice. I'm afraid, Your Highness, that I am unable to comply. The Minister of Justice himself stepped out from the shadows. Unfortunately for the prince, he was on my side. I smiled a chillingly cold smile. My apologies. I'm investigating this case under direct Imperial orders. Everyone here who has twisted the truth in an attempt to have me killed will be thrown into the dungeons. You've got some nerve. Using my own sword to go after my son. The Emperor, Silas, left the third prince kneeling outside his study, and came to question me about why I dragged his son into my petty revenge. Silas was calmer now, a far cry from the sharp, shrewd, and ruthless man he used to be. He used to be a man who tolerated no imperfections. Now all he wanted was peace in his court and his harem, willing to smooth things over endlessly. I was not satisfied. So I lounged in my chair, basking in the sun with my eyes closed, not even giving him a glance. The stalemate stretched on. Finally, he reached out and brushed my cheek. This temperament of yours. You're becoming more and more like her. When the Emperor visited the Empress Dowager at the Grand Temple, he fell in love at first sight with a new consort, a woman named Sky. Sky, the consort who was just as he wished. How laughable. I had become my own replacement. After all, no one would ever suspect that the current June was actually Silas's long-dead love. The one that got away, a woman also named Sky. I could imitate myself perfectly. So, when I had unhorsed him with a single sword stroke and stood on his shoulders, ready to snap his neck, he saw the shadow of his lost love in my blade and my eyes. He wanted to make me, this defiant woman, his consort. My condition was that he had to kill the fake heiress for me, to avenge me. He no longer had his old ruthlessness and was unwilling to interfere in the private affairs of his ministers. He only assigned the Minister of Justice and the head eunuch, Director Wu, to me. Whether I could bring the wicked to justice was entirely up to my own methods. Desperate times called for desperate measures. That's what the 18-year-old Silas had once told me. So I chose bloody, brutal interrogation. With the Minister of Justice present, their confessions were airtight. They admitted to everything. But then the third prince had to jump in, a hero trying to save his damsel, and turn me into the one who was wronged. Silas wanted to protect his son, but I wanted my pound of flesh. We were at an impasse. He almost died of illness as a child. The Empress spoils him rotten. He's grown up arrogant and clueless. He's such a disappointment. I sneered. And that's it. A disappointment is all he gets? Silas's face clouded over with displeasure. But I met his gaze without flinching. My playful expression held a hint of aggressive provocation. The very look he had once told the original Sky he loved most. He backed down, and was about to speak when, Her Majesty the Empress has arrived. My eyes lit up. Heiress. It's been a long time. The whole reason I went to the trouble of taking down the third prince was to give you this little welcome gift. She still carried herself with the same air of a virtuous, dignified noblewoman. Only when she saw me, and my sword, did her eye twitch. But she walked past me without a glance and knelt before Silas. The third prince is young. He was manipulated and framed by a villain, which is why he lost his head and did such a foolish thing. I have failed in my duty as Empress to raise him properly. I accept full responsibility. I remove my crown and ask to be sent to the cold palace as punishment. The matron beside her quickly knelt. Her Majesty is not well. She just got out of bed to come here with the prince to apologize. Your Majesty, please have mercy. The Empress cannot go to the cold palace. If the Empress were implicated, the foundation of the dynasty would be shaken. Not to mention, the powerful clan, who had served for 3 generations, would not stand for it. The court would erupt in endless arguments. And Silas hated nothing more than old geezers squabbling in his court. Heiress was still the same as she was in her youth, always choosing the roundabout way to get what she wanted. But she was dreaming. Isn't the matron a little too talkative? Is this your place to speak before the emperor? Both the matron and the empress paled. I shot Silas a look. You should get me a mouthpiece too. From now on, they can say all the unpleasant things, and I'll only say what you want to hear. Good deal, right? The Empress's good cop bad cop routine was exposed, and her dignified smile froze on her face. The talkative matron was dragged out by Director Wu. As the sound of slapping echoed, Heiress's face turned to ice. Her hateful gaze swept over me, but I just kicked Silas's leg under the table. Who's the villain? Me. Or that damn fake heiress? If he wouldn't punish his son, then he could punish the fake heiress. A compromise was best for everyone. Silas understood my concession, and his dark expression melted like spring snow. You are my beloved consort. If you are the villain, does that not make me a foolish king? The Empress means that the family's daughter is vicious and cruel. She used my son and tried to kill my beloved consort. Her crimes are unforgivable. I shall sentence her to. Father, you can't. A smile curled on my lips. The idiot has arrived. Prince Alistair, who had been kneeling outside as punishment, burst into my chambers the moment he heard Serena was to be punished. So undisciplined, so foolish. It was exactly what I wanted. Insolence. Heiress slapped him across the face. If I don't punish you severely, there's no telling how much more you'll be deceived by that villain. She was an impostor who deceived the throne to begin with, and now she's nearly cost the consort her life. A cup of poison is a merciful end for her. The emperor had spared his son by throwing Serena under the bus. The Empress was happy to go along with it, sacrificing Serena's life to protect her son. But the ungrateful prince knelt before them. Mother, my feelings for Serena are true. She is pure and good, not a wicked person. He glanced at me, his voice softening slightly. She was framed. Now she's disfigured. She's suffered so much. As the Empress, you should stand up for a poor, weak woman like her. Silas closed his eyes, deeply weary. Heiress was so angry she looked like she might faint on the spot. I decided to help her out. If the third prince doesn't believe it, let him personally oversee the ministry's investigation. If she's going to die, let her die knowing why. We might as well get to the bottom of it. Heiress panicked. An investigation by the ministry meant blood and gore. Sending Serena there was a fate worse than death. Yes, even in death, I wouldn't let her go easily. The bed of nails, the branding iron, cutting off her ears and fingers before throwing her into a pit of snakes. 72 methods of torture, spread across 5 subterranean levels. I wondered which level Serena would make it to. June's suffering had to be repaid in blood, with every step she took down into that hell. Heiress couldn't bear the thought of the child she'd protected for so long witnessing such a scene. She dropped her dignified mask and begged him. But I had already compromised once. Silas couldn't push me further. If you keep protecting him, with that weak character of his, the only thing he's fit for is to be exiled to some wasteland. Instead of wasting your time kneeling and begging me, you should be teaching your worthless son a lesson. Heiress was his first wife, a woman he had always respected. It was the first time he had spoken to her so harshly. She was humiliated and didn't dare cross him again. The third prince was sent to the Ministry of Justice. I've gotten you your revenge. Are you satisfied now? Silas glared at me, his brow furrowed with deep displeasure. I leaned in, pushing him down onto the desk, straddling him like the 15-year-old Sky used to do. I'm not completely satisfied, but you protected me. So I'll make sure you're satisfied. I knew all of the original Sky's little tricks. I could imitate her perfectly, achieving a 5/10 resemblance that was just enough to be tantalizingly incomplete. Every time, it would leave Silas satisfied, yet with a lingering sense of something missing. It left him feeling like he'd gotten what he wanted, but that small, missing piece gnawed at him. It made him think of me, and of the original Sky, even more. In just 3 days, the once arrogant third prince fell ill. Of course he did. Watching the love of his life have her fingers cut off and her skin peeled away right before his eyes, until she was just a bloody mess reaching for him, crying, "Alistair, save me." How could a prince raised in a greenhouse not be terrified? But just as Serena died, she cried out to him, "If we cannot be together in life, I will be with you in death." The sight of that mangled, bloody ghost was too much for the prince. He was so scared his legs gave out. He immediately ordered her body to be cremated and her ashes scattered in the river. Even so, the third prince developed a high fever. 3 different royal physicians were summoned. They said he was suffering from extreme shock that had damaged his spirit. No one knew that the knife I used to cut Serena was coated in a special poison. The prince was contaminated when he held her. When he was frightened and his mind was unstable, it would cause hallucinations. Everything was part of my precise calculation. While he was lost in paranoia, I hadn't forgotten his mother. Because of the palace guard's negligence in letting the prince into my chambers, I had several of Heiress's spies killed. When the bloody list of names was sent to her, I heard she was so angry her face turned green. She was unhappy, which made me happy. That night, I had Serena's blood-soaked clothes sent to the Duke's manor. The Duke and Duchess are missing their daughter. I thought I'd give them something to remember her by. I heard the Duchess was so overcome with grief that she vomited blood, and the now disgraced manor was thrown into chaos. I sat cross-legged, cracking melon seeds, while Silas sighed incessantly. My son is so useless. It's more shameful than if someone had killed me. I gave a subtle signal, and his words spread throughout the palace, especially in the Empress's wing, where they were heard the loudest. Heiress threw another massive tantrum in her palace. A young attendant who came to pay her respects was punished for wearing a red rose. The Empress, once known for her grace and generosity, was starting to let her mask slip. This was just the opening act. The real show was yet to come. Silas desperately searched for traces of the original Sky in me, addicted to my fearlessness. He practically lived in my palace. He gave me all his favor, his affection, his attention. In a moment of passion, he bit my ear and whispered her name, Sky. I tilted his chin, forcing him to look at my face. "I am the consort Sky," I said. "The orphan Sky." He rested his forehead against mine and laughed at himself. "That's right. She was never as obedient as you." If Heiress had dared to call her a villain, she would have slapped her right in front of me. I wasn't that arrogant. The time I slapped Heiress was when she pointed at my swollen belly, her smile a predatory snarl as she ripped into me. "You've killed so many people. I don't believe for a second that karma won't come for your son. And even if it does, who knows if he'll even be born? And if he is, what kind of life will he have?" But the consequence of slapping her was that I was forced to kneel for half a day, and I lost my baby. It was much later that I learned she had worn an abortifacient herb when she danced near me that day. From the very beginning, she had intended for me to miscarry. My son died because of her scheming. Her son would not live in peace. So what if he was closely protected? In the end, I destroyed him. I traced Silas's sharp brow, but I couldn't find any trace of the man he used to be. And what about her? Where did she go? Silas's body stiffened. He subtly pulled his hand from under my pillow, turned his back to me, and said flatly, "It's late. Let's sleep." I couldn't sleep. I was thinking about my little brother. When Silas rode out with my secret message to save the previous emperor, I was trapped in the manor, surrounded by troops led by Heiress's brother. Heiress held my hidden brother in front of her, forcing me to surrender. "You traitor. You die or he dies. Choose." My family, the clan, had been framed and wiped out. Only my brother and I were left. I bled and fought for Silas, first for the day I could clear my family's name, and second, so my brother could have a good life. He was only 7, just 3 years older than Prince Alistair. While Alistair was being coddled like a precious jewel, completely unaware of hardship, my brother had already vowed to clear our family's name, even if it meant breaking his own bones. He swore to study relentlessly, to pass the Imperial exams, and to become a high-ranking official to support me, his older sister. Even as a prisoner under Heiress's knife, he told me without a trace of fear, "Sister, you've done enough for me, for our family. If you don't go, I won't live alone." Heiress's brother stomped on my brother's back. The sound of his bones cracking nearly tore me apart. "If she leaves, I'll skin you alive and hang you from the city gates as a warning." When I hesitated to drop my sword, he twisted my brother's arm, the one he held behind his back, until it snapped. The 7-year-old boy was pale with pain, but he still managed a weak smile for me. "It doesn't hurt, sister. I'm a man. I can take it." Crack. His leg, the one he used for martial arts, was shattered with a single stomp. As the tip of Heiress's knife moved towards my brother's eye, I dropped my sword. But at the same moment, a sharp blade pierced me from behind. It was the sister I had protected all this time. That person is still in the palace, quietly enjoying her life of wealth and luxury. It's time for her to pay me back with her life. In my second month in the palace, an autumn banquet was held. Silas held my hand and had me sit beside him. Heiress forced a proud expression, but she was gritting her teeth with hatred. While Silas was drinking with his ministers, I quietly switched my wine for water. Then, provocatively, I patted my belly. I was pregnant. Heiress's hand, holding her wine cup, turned white. After a few rounds of drinks, I offered to go for a walk. Silas just told me to be careful. I patted the sword at my side. "With this, you don't have to worry." The long sealed gates of the Western Palace were opened. The reclusive consort Vera was already waiting for me under the moonlight. When she saw me, she rushed forward. "Are they still alive? What do you want from me?" I coolly brushed her hand away. "Kneel." Her face stiffened. Meeting my icy gaze, she hesitated for a moment before weakly kneeling. "Greetings, Your Highness." I didn't tell her to rise. I sat down before her, looking down at her. "This palace isn't as grand as your old courtyard. What, is Heiress not treating you well?" She gave a bitter smile. "I'm just a pawn. Without a child to secure my position, this is the best I can hope for. What do you want me to do?" "I just want to know if my family is still alive." I ignored her question and threw a small packet of powder at her. "You should visit the Empress more often. You're such good sisters after all. Her precious son is so sick he can't even attend the banquet. He could surely use your comfort." Her gaze lingered on the packet of powder for a long time. Finally, with a trembling hand, she grasped her own death sentence. "If I do this, will you release my mother and brother?" I stood up to leave. "You're not in a position to ask." Her weak points were in someone else's hands. What right did she have to negotiate? The only person who had seen my brother's letter was her. The one who betrayed us could only be her, Vera. A life for a life. What made her think she had the right to make demands of me? From the moment I sent her the tokens belonging to her mother and brother, her fate was sealed. She was doomed to live in constant fear and anxiety until the day she died. On my way back to the banquet, I was stopped by Lady Evelyn. She smiled and looked at my face. "You look so much like an old friend of mine." I rolled my eyes. "Oh, I know. The Emperor told me the day he asked me to be his consort. I'm just a stand-in for his lost love. But I'm still a pampered consort with a life of luxury. What's there to complain about?" Her face went pale, the words of provocation she wanted to say getting stuck in her throat. "Now is the perfect time for the second prince to shine, don't you think? Shouldn't you seize the opportunity? The Emperor is worried that none of his sons are competent. An opportunity like this, if missed, may never come again. Compared to the Empress's hypocrisy, I find your smile much more sincere." Lady Evelyn's eyes lit up, and she gently took my hand. With the third prince ill, the second prince made a grand entrance at court. I used to like his mother. She was gentle and weak, with a soft smile, always following me around, calling me sister. She was thoughtful and obedient. When I returned to the manor covered in blood, she would always be waiting under the veranda to clean my wounds and apply medicine. The two people I trusted most in the manor were Lady Evelyn, whom I had trained myself, and Vera, whom I had rescued from a pile of corpses. But in the end, Vera used my weakness to trade for wealth and became a consort. and Evelyn stabbed me in the back, securing a peaceful life for her and her son, and was later made a high-ranking lady of the court. Neither of them would escape. Now that the third prince was weakened, Lady Evelyn, who had been patient for years, finally showed her claws, thanks to the information I gave her. In court, the second prince steadily won over officials, putting immense pressure on the third prince. In the harem, Lady Evelyn openly befriended me, catching the Empress completely off guard. Thank you for the evidence, sister. Now that Minister Zhu is embroiled in a corruption and cronyism scandal, he can't help the third prince even if he wants to. When I didn't respond, she prodded again. It's a shame he has such a tight lip. He didn't implicate the third prince. I glanced at her sideways. Whether there's concrete evidence isn't important. The second prince understands the power of rumors. At worst, you just create the narrative. I remembered that today was the day the little girl was supposed to eat jerky, so I stood up and headed for the prayer hall. The smile on Lady Evelyn's face vanished and a cold, snake-like chill clung to my back. Trying to use me as a weapon? We'll see who's the weapon and who's the wielder. My pregnancy was a closely guarded secret. Silas surrounded me with layers of protection. He said he had to ensure the safety of me and our child. I hid the smile on my lips and agreed that it was only natural. But a few days later, after Consort Vera came to my palace for a cup of tea, I started bleeding heavily and collapsed on the floor. When Silas arrived, the pool of blood was right at his feet. He must have remembered the day the original Sky miscarried. He had also found her in a pool of blood, carrying her back, but losing their fully formed son. As he held me, his body trembled, and he kept begging, "Don't sleep. Don't sleep. I'm here. The physicians are here. Just hold on a little longer. I'll stay with you." I tried my best to mimic Sky's expression when she was injured, touching his face without saying a word, without crying out in pain. The memories were overlapping, probably making the impression even deeper. When he learned that I had been given a large dose of an abortifacient, and my body was so damaged that I could never have children again, Silas stormed off to Heiress's palace. Even though Vera kept her mouth shut, it wasn't hard to pry a few truths from her servants. The Empress has been summoning our mistress to her palace frequently lately. Today, she was called over early in the morning, and they spoke privately for 2 hours. Right before our mistress came here, the Empress sent someone out of the palace. She said, "Go on, don't worry. I'll take care of everything. Your Majesty, please seek justice for our mistress." Vera was very obedient. She had followed my instructions to the letter. Silas kicked her to the ground. "Are you her dog? I've never seen such loyalty. If you're so loyal, why did you betray Sky all those years ago? You wretched woman, you deserve to die." As Vera was dragged away, she kept begging me for mercy. I knew what she was saying. She was telling me she did as I asked, and that I should spare her mother and brother. But I didn't have a brother anymore. Why should she? After she was thrown into the cold palace, I sent her a special gift. She loved to play the zither, so I had a zither made from her mother's bones. She loved to beat the drum, so I had a small drum made from her brother's skin. She went mad, screaming and cursing me, calling me a heartless monster, a liar who deserved to die. Halfway through her tirade, a figure in a black cloak appeared before her. "It was me. You drank that poison and bled so much, yet you can still come to me. You are ruthless, so ruthless." I was never a good person, and this wasn't the first day she knew it. I pulled her into an embrace, took the hairpin from her hair, and slowly, jab by jab, disabled her. Then, I dragged her a long way and threw her down a dry well. Before I left, I told her a truth that would ensure she would never rest in peace. I'm not Sky's sister. Sky never had a sister. So, if I have a blade skill and a look so much like hers, what do you think that means? She must have figured it out, desperate for confirmation. But the well was so deep, the cold palace so desolate. She could scream until she died, and no one would ever hear her. When I was tortured to death, cut piece by piece, my bones broken, my brother was forced to watch, just as helplessly. He tasted that pain. All those executioners deserved to taste it too. Years ago, Vera's mother was sold to a brothel and nearly died from the abuse. I was the one who stormed in and saved her. Her brother was useless in both literature and martial arts, a slave born to a prostitute. I took a sword for Silas and used that favor to get him a job. But in the end, it was that mother and son who used fake news of my death to lure my brother to the capital. They betrayed me. They deserved to pay back everything they owed. Back then, the three of them worked together, using every trick in the book to kill the original Sky. But now one was dead in the cold palace, and the other two were pitted against each other, fighting to the death. And I no longer had any weaknesses for them to exploit. Would I lose this time? I returned to my palace, exhausted and covered in blood. Silas was sitting by the bed, reading. He ignored the blood on me, his fear evident as he gripped my cold hand. You'll catch a chill. Come here, let me warm you up. He held me tightly, trying to make up for his failings to the other me on me. But neither me could be happy. The companionship the original Sky had needed, he had denied her, staying in Heiress's courtyard instead. The river of blood I wanted now. He was trying to downplay, unwilling to see it through. I went to kill someone. She deserved to die. Aren't you going to ask who? It doesn't matter. It wasn't that the killing didn't matter. It was just that the person who died didn't matter. I almost let myself be fooled by his deep affection and protection. Almost. Because the instigator, the Empress, was forgiven by him. He stripped her of her power to manage the harem, and confined her to her palace to recuperate. That was his idea of getting justice for me. When you're feeling better, I'll make you a noble consort. Stop making trouble, alright? Making trouble? After Vera's body was discovered, I sent her bloody hairpin to the Empress's palace as a get-well gift. I heard the hairpin still reeked of death, and the Empress threw up all day. She complained to Silas, and he came to placate me. I didn't answer. I just took a pair of shears and snipped off a branch from a plum tree. What if I insist she pays for my child with her life? June. He was reminding me that I was June, the useless girl from the Duke's manor with no future. Everything I had now he had given me. I was supposed to be obedient, to be molded as he wished. It was a warm spring day, but I felt a chill. Did she die at Heiress's hands too? Did you protect her like this? My direct question left Silas speechless. I have important matters to attend to today. I'll see you tomorrow. He always tried to escape when the original Sky was mentioned. Because he felt guilty, because he had a guilty conscience, because he was afraid to face it. They say she drove her to her death. Silas's back stiffened, and his fierce gaze fell on my face. But I was fearless. Wasn't one of me dying enough? Do you need another? Or maybe you never loved her, and you were never moved by me. Insolence. He had never been this angry before. He slapped me. I've spoiled you too much. You've become arrogant and reckless. Who do you think you are? You're just a toy I keep for my amusement. From today on, you will stay in this palace and recuperate. You are not to go anywhere. He loved my freedom and my defiance. But he hated that I wasn't obedient enough. Just like with the original Sky. He loved that she would give everything for him. But he also thought her hands were too bloody, that she was too fierce. So he preferred Heiress's dignity, Evelyn's kindness, and Vera's obedience. And with that he slowly, painfully, destroyed the original Sky's heart. In the end, he only ever loved himself. I dropped the shears and watched Silas's resolute back as he left. I stood in silence. I gave you chance after chance to make amends. You're the one who didn't take them. From now on you can't blame me. I was left to languish in my palace. I didn't see Silas for days. Everyone said the new consort was too arrogant, had offended the Empress, and had now fallen from favor. With me out of favor and the Empress sick, the happiest person was Lady Evelyn. She was given power over the harem, and her son, armed with evidence of the third prince's corruption, was shining in court. The third prince was repeatedly impeached by ministers, disappointing Silas to his core. Finally, he stripped the third prince of all his power and ordered him to recuperate. When Heiress heard the news, she vomited blood and, despite her illness, begged for an audience with Silas. That day, I flew a kite in my courtyard. It was a majestic eagle, so lifelike it seemed to be flying over the palace. Silas stood outside the Empress's palace and watched it for a long time. When he went inside, he had a huge fight with her. The eagle was a birthday gift my brother had once shot down for Silas. He remembered my brother, And he remembered my brother's words. Sister has nothing but you and me. She would die for us, so we must protect her with our lives. My brother had kept his word. He hadn't. It was a sore spot for him, and the Empress had just rubbed salt in the wound. Of course she couldn't save their precious son. The Duke's family, who had been ostracized by high society, saw my downfall as an opportunity to kick me while I was down. The Duke sent me a letter, condescendingly ordering me be officially recognized by the family as soon as possible. I will send a girl from a branch of the Meng family into the palace to help you secure your favor. The child she bears will be raised by you, giving you something to rely on. Only by holding on to the Emperor's favor can you and the Meng family have a better future. A grasshopper in its last days still dared to jump. Since he was asking for death, I would gladly help him. Seeing that the Empress and Lady Evelyn were now mortal enemies, there was no need for me to hide anymore. So, that letter ended up on Silas's desk. What emperor would want his bed and his heirs to be controlled by his ministers? Especially when his favorite consort was being bullied by everyone the moment she fell from grace. Overnight, the family was implicated in a treason case. Their assets were seized, and they were exiled. It happened in the blink of an eye. See, if the emperor wants to stand up for you, it's as simple as a wave of his hand. He just hadn't wanted to. Silas remembered my helpless, pitiful state again. After ignoring me for a month, he came to see me. You've learned your lesson. Now learn to be obedient. My sword had been taken away, so I just picked at my nails. Didn't you say you liked my wildness and defiance? Seeing that I could still talk back to him, his anger dissipated. The palace is not a place for fighting and killing. There are many ways to protect yourself. I will give them to you, but you must be good. I pouted. Only if you give me a child to replace the one I lost. That's easy. The Empress Dowager has one ready-made. A frail, cat-like, sickly prince was brought before me. He was so timid he just hid behind people, not at all like a prince. His nanny repeatedly apologized. Your Highness, please forgive him. The fourth prince is not in good health, and is a bit timid. This child's mother had died in childbirth. He had been raised by the Empress Dowager, but she was often away from the palace, so he ended up in Heiress's care. He was sick 8 months out of 10, but he was still alive. And now he was in my hands. I rose with a smile, my face filled with a warmth I had never shown before. Come here. Let me have a good look at my son. Give Silas a child? June's body wasn't suitable, and I wasn't stupid enough to put my own weakness in his hands. Besides, I couldn't wait. A ready-made one would do just fine. Without a powerful family to back me, I had only Silas, and he didn't guard against me. My new son, of course, got the best tutors and the best living quarters. Even Silas, when he was with me, would play chess, paint, and sometimes even plant flowers with the obedient little Prince Ryan. Seeing me rise higher and higher, and my son begin to show his talents, Lady Evelyn grew restless. The second prince became increasingly close with the ministers, even showing a ruthless streak towards the third prince. He even incited the officials to pressure Silas to name a crown prince. The emperor was still in his prime. Being pushed by his son to name an heir early was a major taboo. And then, he had to go and impeach my son over some trivial matter. Lady Evelyn's carefully laid plans for her son came to a screeching halt, just one step from the throne. The second prince was accused of corruption, harming his own brother, and having a malicious heart. He was exiled to a remote fiefdom and forbidden to return to the capital without permission. All of this was set in motion from the moment I encouraged Lady Evelyn to let the second prince shine. When the tree falls, the monkeys scatter. The opportunistic ministers who had been flocking to him now came to me, trying to curry favor. I ignored all of them. But during a tea gathering with the ministers' wives, I casually brought up the former Duke's manor. Perhaps their daughter was ill-fated, severing her ties with them. Combined with what I had done at the manor before returning to the palace, someone quickly figured out what I wanted. The Meng family's son couldn't handle the hardship of exile, and jumped into a river. His body was eaten by fish, and only a skeleton was recovered. The white-haired parents buried their dark-haired son. The old Duke couldn't take it, had a fall, and was now paralyzed. The Duchess was now like an old servant, working day and night for a scrap of food. Alone and with no end to their suffering in sight, they were in a pitiful state. They remembered they had another daughter, and full of remorse, tried to ask about me. People just sneered at them. She's the emperor's favorite consort. Who are you to ask about her? You should give up any hope of clinging to her for support. I was sun-drying jerky again, the best, most fragrant kind. My son asked me, Mother, does it still hurt? I touched my chest. It doesn't hurt anymore. June wasn't in pain anymore. The one in pain was Sky. But I didn't expect someone to use my cruelty and lack of filial piety against me. When I was about to be named a noble consort, an official impeached me, saying I was unfit for the title. Silas was furious. I advised him, I don't care about being a noble consort or not. As long as I have you and Ryan with me, that's enough. Is it really enough? Lady Evelyn arrived with a smile, followed by the Empress, who hadn't been seen in a long time. The two bitches, whose sons were now like stray dogs, had joined forces again. Is the consort truly a daughter of the Meng family? A direct hit. Of course not. I answered directly. They both looked grim. I continued, I'm an orphan. Didn't you know? Lady Evelyn, still with her benevolent smile, produced evidence to condemn me. But all of this proves you are not an orphan, but the descendant of a traitor from the Yun family. Silas squeezed my hand so tightly it hurt. His eyes filled with suspicion. A descendant of the traitorous Yun family? Are you? Heiress sighed with regret. Back then, the side consort was discovered to be a traitor's descendant, which is why she had no choice but to jump into the palace lake. I never thought she had such a beautiful sister. What a pity. She said it was a pity, but her face was full of unconcealed triumph. They probably thought that by joining forces again, I would be doomed. Where did this evidence come from? Lady Evelyn smiled sweetly. A maid from Consort Vera's palace gave it to me before she killed herself. It's all proof that you, my dear sister, incited her to use the Empress to kill your own child. Sister, do you have anything to say? Silas's expression was terrifyingly dark. I knew he was suppressing his anger, waiting for my explanation. So I spread out the letters and showed them to Silas, one by one. Your Majesty, whose handwriting do you think this is? Silas's eyes narrowed. Unable to contain himself any longer, he slapped Lady Evelyn across the face. The Empress was shocked. Your Majesty, you've hit the wrong person. The one who did wrong was clearly the consort. Silas looked down at her, his eyes filled with disappointment. The Empress is not well. You should return to your palace and rest. I will pretend you were never here today. They had been husband and wife for so long. Even now, he was still protecting her. But Heiress wasn't about to let go of this golden opportunity for revenge. She led a group of consorts and knelt before Silas. I am the head of the harem, and it is my duty to advise you. A traitor's descendant at your side is a threat to the empire. For the sake of the country, for your sake, I implore you to execute the last of the clan. Lady Evelyn, holding her cheek, tearfully chimed in. The way the original Sky died was disgraceful. I fear the family holds a grudge and has ulterior motives for staying by your side. It is a threat to the dynasty. Silas had never seen them join forces to crush the original Sky. But today, he was witnessing their relentless attack on me, June, with his own eyes. If your Majesty doesn't believe me, I have also brought the confessions of the family. The real June was timid and shy, barely able to speak in front of others. How could she be as decisive and fearless as our current consort? The family's daughter has just taken on June's skin to deceive you, your Majesty. Please reconsider. All the consorts of the 6 palaces kowtowed in unison, demanding my death. I calmly brushed off my sleeves and couldn't help but laugh as I looked at Silas. What now? You die or I die? Everyone was stunned, glaring at me with rage. Consort, how dare you? The Empress was even more impatient. Your Majesty, even now, are you still going to indulge her and protect her? Then what do you think I should do, Empress? A cold smile touched Silas's indifferent face. He flicked his robes and sat down on a stone bench. The Empress gave me a sharp smile. A traitor's descendant, of course, should be beheaded and put on public display. Silas nodded, as if seriously considering it. Then he waved his hand. Men, drag her away. Behead her and put her on public display. The Empress and Lady Evelyn exchanged a look of triumphant glee. But in the next moment, the men led by Director Wu dragged away Lady Evelyn. Lady Evelyn was horrified. The face that always wore a gentle, soft smile was now filled with terror. Insolence! You're supposed to arrest the consort. Why are you arresting me? The Empress was also confused. Your Majesty, what is the meaning of this? Silas looked down at them as if they were clowns. Lady Evelyn just said that these letters were given to her by Consort Vera's maid before she killed herself, and that the handwriting is identical to the consort's. Based on that handwriting, she's concluded that the consort is a traitor's descendant. But what Lady Evelyn doesn't know is that during the years the consort was lost from the Duke's manor, she never learned to read or write. How could she have written anything? Everyone was stunned. The Empress scrambled to cover. The consort's calligraphy and paintings have been seen by many. How can you say she can't write? Your Majesty, you must have been deceived by her. For the first time, Silas looked at Heiress with disgust. Because that is my own handwriting. They were struck by lightning, frozen on the spot. I finally smiled and explained His Majesty dotes on me. He knows I struggle with writing. He tried to teach me but I couldn't learn. He was afraid I'd be mocked for my ignorance, so he often wrote some silly poems with his left hand for me to pass off as my own. Others might not know, but Lady Evelyn often visited my palace. It wouldn't be hard for her to take a couple of calligraphy books. She just didn't know that the handwriting wasn't mine. Which means these letters couldn't have been written by me either. A month ago, when Silas was practicing his calligraphy again, 2 books went missing. That day, only Lady Evelyn had come for tea. I had laughed at the time and said that perhaps Lady Evelyn and His Majesty were so in sync that she had come to admire his handwriting as much as she admired him. Silas had even teased me about being jealous. Lady Evelyn was terrified. No matter how much she pleaded her innocence, she couldn't change her fate of being thrown into the cold palace. The Empress collapsed to the ground, knowing her time was up. Silas took my hand and walked past the crowd back to my palace. He didn't even glance at the Empress behind him. I was wrong. I shouldn't have been so lenient with her. He held me in his arms, his body trembling slightly. I knew what he was thinking about. The day the original Sky died, everyone was silent on the matter. The only story was that she had drowned herself in the palace lake. Sky was afraid of water, terrified of it. If they hadn't pushed her to the brink, she never would have jumped into the lake. But what he didn't know was that drowning was a mercy. I had endured 5 of the 7 levels of the dungeons before I finally died. And all the while, my brother was forced to watch me being skinned alive. The deep pain was stirred up again, but he was just using me for comfort. You protected me today. That's good enough. He held me even tighter. He could have protected me, but he hadn't protected the original Sky. He was in agony, filled with guilt. But he no longer had the courage or determination to get to the bottom of it for anyone. I was once again completely disappointed. In reality, he couldn't protect me either. From beginning to end, I was the only one protecting myself. The letters in Lady Evelyn's hands were real, a weakness I had intentionally left behind. June couldn't imitate Silas's handwriting, but Sky certainly could. After Lady Evelyn died suddenly, the second prince was immediately exiled to his fiefdom, stripped of everything, never to be a threat again. The third prince, without the support of the family and with his mother, the Empress, gravely ill, could only walk on eggshells. As a noble consort, I became the true victor of the harem. During a break, I went to see Lady Evelyn. She sat on the veranda, her hair disheveled. When she saw me, her eyes filled with malice. I gripped her chin, my voice cold as ice. I'm not going to kill you, don't be afraid. Because I want you to spend every day thinking about your son in his remote fiefdom, constantly guessing and fearing which day he will die at my hands. Just like my brother, dead without a proper grave. A person's weakness is a terrible thing. Lady Evelyn, a woman so cruel and vicious, actually knelt on the ground and kowtowed to me, begging for forgiveness. And don't even think about killing yourself. The moment you die, I'll send your son to join you. And you know I won't let him die easily. She broke down, crying hysterically, begging. But I turned and walked away with a cold, satisfied smile. Let that fear, that terror, cut into her like a knife every day, leaving her unable to live and unable to die. It seemed like I had won, but not yet. When I took the fourth prince to see the Empress Dowager, she was fingering her prayer beads and sighed. I have done everything I promised you. When will you fulfill your promise to me? I had come this far, step by step, smoothly, thanks to the Empress Dowager's silent support. Even June's shattered soul was reassembled by the head abbot of the Grand Temple at her request. I am not an ungrateful person. I handed her a letter. One last time. I must trouble you, Your Highness. On the way back to the palace, the fourth prince asked me, Mother, there are many sons in the palace. Why did you choose the most useless one, me? The sun was so bright it made my eyes water. I choked back a sob and said, because you and I are connected by fate. But he didn't know that my skeleton, marked by the soul-locking pearl, was supposed to be at the bottom of the palace lake. It was his mother, the concubine the Empress Dowager had placed in the manor, the one who was always at odds with me, who had secretly switched me out. She buried me just outside the potter's field and planted a peach tree as a marker. If he risks everything to clear your name and seek revenge for you, I will bring him to you. This peach tree will be the proof. But Silas, for the sake of power, for the sake of the crown prince title he had just obtained, for the sake of not causing a scandal in his own house, had suppressed my death and my family's case. No one came looking for me. I knew long ago that he had abandoned me. Consort, come here. I've painted a picture for you. Come and see. Silas's eyes were full of love as he reached out to me. I smiled and took his hand. The person in the painting had a face like a peach blossom, with a hint of a smile, and a rebellious, sharp glint in her eyes. It was me, and it wasn't me. I only have you now. You must stay with me until we're old and gray. The sunset was like a fire, turning his eyes red. He seemed so sincere, so I replied just as sincerely. All right. But just half a month later, when the royal astrologer declared that I was a demon possessing June's body, he once again hid behind the astrologer without hesitation. Whether it's true or not, let the astrologer perform the ritual. It will put my mind at ease and yours. The long-ill Empress stood beside Silas, staring at me with a dark, sinister expression. Using words only the two of us could understand, she mouthed, You are going to die at my hands again. This so-called royal astrologer, the one who had placed the soul-locking pearl on my skeleton 15 years ago, had been brought back to destroy me body and soul. But Heiress, a person doesn't fall in the same place twice. I smiled faintly and nodded at Silas. Yes, that way we'll both be at ease. The astrologer's talisman was placed on my body. The 5-flavored true fire passed before my face. It burned. It hurt. I kept smiling at Silas. He was so guilty he couldn't even meet my gaze. Looking back on this life, my biggest mistake was huddling together with an equally helpless Silas for warmth when I was at my most vulnerable. I had fought for him, risking my life, but he didn't even have the courage to speak up for me. My poor brother, his bones sunk in the river, never to be reunited with me. After the long ceremony was over, the Empress was horrified. How can this be? I collapsed to the ground, exhausted from the day's ordeal, and stared at her sharply. What did you expect? As the Empress said, for me to vomit blood and die on the spot? As soon as the words left my mouth, a pale Silas violently coughed up a mouthful of blood and collapsed. And in my hand, the white jade that held June's residual soul trembled slightly. Perfect. I had borrowed the power of the true dragon to reconstruct June's soul. You audacious charlatan! How dare you harm the Emperor? Seize him! The Empress Dowager rushed in, followed by the real royal astrologer. The Empress had used a fake astrologer to kill the Emperor. The Empress Dowager immediately had her thrown into the cold palace. This was my plan. 2 birds with 1 stone. Using their own strength against them, so both the Empress Dowager and I could get what we wanted. Silas's face was ashen. He lay on the bed, unable to speak. I knew he was on his deathbed, so I told him a story. The charlatan who stole your dragon energy was the one who placed a soul-locking pearl on Sky's skeleton over a decade ago. Sky died, but not completely. She became a lonely ghost, waiting desperately for her husband to come for her. But in the end, the one who came for her was a young girl named June. Silas's eyes went wide. And do you know why he would risk his head to help me take your life? Because if I offered my blood as a sacrifice, he would suffer a backlash and his soul would be scattered. In this world, you only know how much it hurts when you're the one being hit. I don't want anyone's regret. I want them to feel the pain in their own flesh. Including Silas. Silas stared at me, his expression complex. How does it feel to die at the hands of the noble, aristocratic wife you respected so much? It must be painful. Do you know how much it hurt me when I learned of your betrayals, one after another? How much it hurt when you abandoned me, time after time? Silas's eyes were red, and he stared at me without blinking. Are you seeing June or Sky? It doesn't matter. They are both me, and you are not worthy of either. The Empress Dowager will take good care of you. After all, she raised you for so many years. After you personally killed her real son, she hates you more than anyone. The Empire? Yes, the Empire is what you love most. Let's give it to my son. After all, I helped you conquer half of it. You ruled one half. Let me rule the other. I stood up and left, and never went to see him again. But I visited Heiress in the cold palace often. Every time I went, I brought gifts. First her father, who gave her advice. Then her brother, who supported her. And finally her mother, who gave her the abortifacient that killed my son. For each one of them, just as her brother had done to me, I made them experience all 72 methods of torture until they finally died. At first, Heiress was filled with hatred. She screamed and cried, desperate to fight me. Then came fear, submission, and desperate pleas for mercy. I didn't accept, so I continued to humiliate her. Finally, she was driven mad. She tried to snatch a guard's sword to kill herself, but she was stopped. Take good care of her every day. If anyone lets her die, I will annihilate their entire clan. Her family was buried in the cold palace, keeping her company every day. Heiress couldn't die, but she couldn't live either. Just like me, hanging from that peach tree. Day by day, she would have to endure. My revenge was complete, and my son became the new emperor. He respected me greatly and, at my suggestion, cleared the Yun family's name. With no more worries, I, the youngest Empress Dowager in history, had nothing but endless blessings. I held banquet after banquet. People said I couldn't bear the loneliness and loved extravagant parties. I ignored them and continued to do as I pleased. Until at one banquet, I saw the pregnant wife of the Marquis of Rongen, and my face lit up with joy. The Marquis of Rongen's title was hereditary, and their family was known for its integrity. They rarely took concubines unless they had trouble producing heirs. The young Marquis and his wife were childhood sweethearts, deeply in love. Their child was only 5 months along, but they had already prepared everything he would need for his entire life. The extent of their love and doting was clear. A family like that was truly wonderful. Young lady of the House of Rongen, come here. You look so happy, I want to give you a little something. The young woman glanced at her husband, and after receiving an encouraging look, she slowly approached me. I took out the white jade I had kept for so long and placed it in her hand. For a safe pregnancy. Wear it every day. She accepted it with a smile and thanked me. As I watched her walk away, I thought of the girl under the peach tree, the one who had shared jerky with me. I've found you a good family for your next life. You must be happy. The end.